meat and curry, I'm your man. Cause how we all lose it is a mystery. It's like the changing of our wardrobes from a dire history. But it's the one making us not stop. 50 kilograms is all we've got to drop. La 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 la, la 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 la.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's 50 kg Drop podcast. This week, we have got the CEO and founder of a company called Thriver Health that is going to come on and talk to us about their product. And he is the one and only Tom Livsey. Hello, Tom. How are you?
Hi, and good. Thank you. Great to be here. Thanks for having me
on. Tom, thanks for coming on. I think for us, it would be really good and for the listeners to understand about what your company does, what you do, how you got to this point. So over to you, really.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, so we started Thriver, and when I say we, me and two other friends and co-founders, Hamish and Elliot, started Thriver back in 2015. And really the kind of genesis of the idea was to actually solve a problem more specifically for Elliot. So Elliot had, from a young age, kind of genetic condition that he was managing. And nothing super serious, but meant that he had to go for regular blood tests and manage his. It was actually kind of a genetically high cholesterol, so kind of relevant, obviously, for some of his kind of heart health and stuff like that. Was doing regular blood tests, and besides the kind of the annoyance of having to take a day off work every few months and go into a clinic and get a big needle in his arm and stuff like that, he got kind of over time a bit frustrated that he kind of heard nothing and had to assume that no news was good news, didn't get access to his results or really kind of any advice, and then after a few years he decided I just want to understand like where what's been happening, where I've been. So phoned up the clinic, convinced them kind of nurse to read over the blood tests over the phone. He kind of would put them all in an Excel spreadsheet, plotted it over time, and found actually things have been going the wrong way. And while everything was like normal and within the kind of limits, nothing was crazy. Had he had that information, he would have done things differently. He had been great about kind of taking his medication and kind of doing the stuff he was supposed to do lifestyle-wise. And that was really the kind of genesis of the idea. It's like, isn't it crazy that we don't have access to this kind of information? And this was for a specific condition, but actually this applies much more generally to everyone, right? Especially in the UK, we have this amazing safety net of the NHS, which is kind of there for us when stuff goes horribly wrong. But until that point, we're driving blind. We know more about our cars, and we're forced to get an MOT every year. But our own bodies, which are arguably the most important thing, most people kind of don't really know what's going on until often it's too late. And so that was the kind of genesis of the idea. And the way we went about that was kind of obviously trying to arm people with the right information so that they can make better decisions day to day, and just kind of know more about themselves. And obviously one of the best ways to get at that information is through blood testing. So we kind of tried to make that process as easy and painless as possible. So we offered finger prick blood tests that you can take from home with a kind of accompanying GP report. So I should mention as well, this was about the same time as Theranos was taking off. So that's the first question that we usually got. For those that don't know, Theranos was a kind of big, crazy story in the US about a fraudulent blood testing company. We approach things quite differently. We use like accredited labs, and we don't kind of try and do anything crazy on the actual testing side. But yeah, we make it really easy for people to get access to the most relevant health information about themselves, get a report from a GP, and some kind of more personalized advice about kind of the changes they can make and anything they might be wanting to do on the back of those results. And really, it's evolved a lot since then. So we've kind of started to offer ways in which people can engage long term, offer really personalized advice. That's a really important thing to us, that we feel that the future of health is going to be very personal and preventative. So that's kind of really what we've been working on. So, people subscribe to blood tests that they typically take kind of every 3 to 4 months. Alongside that, we offer kind of automated information. We have some actually kind of like software medical devices that provide personalized recommendations on what you might want to eat, kind of how you might want to exercise, things like that, depending on your results. And we've also kind of over time offered some additional stuff outside of that. So we have kind of supplements as well, obviously kind of offered a simple way to improve some areas of your health. We offer consultations, so you can kind of speak to a specialist or a doctor at any point if you want to kind of dive into your results, ask specific questions. And most recently as well, we've also started, we've become CQC, so the Care Quality Commission, who are the regulator of kind of health in the UK. So we're kind of registered under them, which means we can now start doing stuff like prescriptions and stuff like that. And so most recently as well, we've also launched a kind of weight loss program, which is one of the reasons kind of obviously chatting today, which is kind of using Wegovy, which is, people might have heard of this GLP-1 kind of weight loss drug, but really importantly, it's kind of part of a program and support kind of outside of that with blood testing and insights and kind of support and recommendations for people to kind of lose weight. So that kind of takes us today. So that's in a nutshell. We kind of mostly deal direct to consumer. So you can go to Thrive.co and browse blood tests and kind of purchase from there. But we also actually work with businesses behind the scenes as well. So we support kind of the NHS. We work with various different hospitals. We worked on kind of clinical trials where testing is really important. And also looking to work directly with kind of companies as well, because we think employee health and like companies looking after their employees is really important too, and an area where the employers can do a lot more actually to support people, which in an area which is typically very expensive to kind of support on health. And we want to make that more accessible to kind of employers as well to help their employees. So I'll stop there. That's kind of a 8 years in a nutshell, and there's been lots of roller coaster rides over the last 8 years. But that's kind of that's why we exist, and we talk about our purpose as a company to increase the number of years people spend in good health. So we focus a lot on kind of health span over lifespan, so which is the kind of the number of years people are actually healthy, rather than just the number of years people are alive.
That is fascinating, because all it's done is the amount of frustrated times I've been to the doctors for blood tests and I've never ever got results. Or it's just infuriating. So how does the blood test work then? I know there's like a pinprick kind of small blood test tube, and then it gets sent off to you guys. You guys take it to a lab. How does that work?
Yeah, so the process is we send your kit to your house, and you basically do a little it's a small lancet in your finger, and it's about kind of 15 drops of blood in a kind of small tube. So obviously you're not putting a big needle in your own arm or anything like that. You can kind of do it at home. You basically then package that up, just stick it in a post box. It goes to one of our kind of partner labs. They process the results, and we get the raw results directly from them. We kind of we have a doctor's platform where a kind of UK GP will provide a personalized report. You filled out a kind of health profile as well, kind of when you purchase. So they'll give you a bit of a report on like kind of what the test means, kind of any areas of focus, anything that you might want to focus on specifically given what you've said in your health profile, and you can access that online. And kind of end to end, that process is usually kind of 48 hours, so pretty quick. Like once you've posted it back, you'll have results within 48 hours.
So if we're on specific diets, and I'm going to kind of link it back into us, the amount of advice we get from various different people that all contradicts itself is absolutely crazy, right? However, what we're trying to do is do our own diets, and from that, there's various different kind of crazy schemes that we've been thinking of to try and lose weight. Would your product then assist that to say, actually, what you're putting in your body is making your energy levels low, or you're lacking the vitamins that you need to be fully functioning and this sort of stuff? Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. So we like there's a wide variety of different like kind of things that you can test and biomarkers. And like energy, as you mentioned, is one of the kind of key things that people want to understand. And there's lots of different things that can impact your kind of day-to-day energy. Equally as well, one of the things that a lot of the reason people are trying to lose weight is one, look good naked, and that's fine. Like that's good.
Hey.
Like, nothing wrong with that. But also their health, right? Like lots of people are trying to kind of maintain a healthy weight. And often the scales can help you understand that, but really actually the things that you want to drive is actually what's going on inside your body. That's what you're trying to change, and so that's what we can kind of help people track. And so that as part of a weight loss journey, I think can be really important to understand, and hopefully kind of give some encouragement, some reinforcement that as you are hopefully losing weight or kind of maintaining weight, whatever it may be, you can see what that's actually doing to your health and see the kind of changes over time. and understand how that's reducing risk and all the kind of benefits that come with maintaining a healthy weight too.
You must get a ton of data. Do you see any common patterns with stuff like, I don't know, alcohol or the chocolate or stuff like that? Are you formulating like the perfect diet out of this, or?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's not the reality is that nutrition is really complicated, and there's not one perfect diet that people can do. I think what's important, there's some really good evidence-based stuff around like Mediterranean diet and the types of food that people could do. I think what's most important though is to get those feedback loops. So if you're trying something that you want to know if works for you, you can get the data to show that actually, yeah, this is working for me. I can see this is moving in the right direction. And obviously, your weight is one way to do that, and how you look is one way to do that. But getting kind of real granular, kind of clinical grade data on like, what level of cholesterol, like, am I at a healthy level of cholesterol? What's this doing? So we can dig into some of the stuff we want to. But like my HbA1c, which is like a kind of marker of your blood glucose and kind of so insulin response, and so kind of your risk of diabetes, like how is that changing? So I think that's a really important thing. And having this data and arming yourself with this data allows you to find what works for you and what is actually having the impact. But yeah, I mean, data is a really important part of our product as well, and we have looked to use our data to kind of improve the products and give better recommendations around things like kind of chocolate and alcohol and stuff like that. But also there's, as you say, right, there's a lot of conflicting stuff out there, and one of the approach that we want to take is be really evidence-based. So all the recommendations that we have alongside your test, the kind of automated personalized ones you have, will show you exactly like where the evidence is from. It's kind of curated by our in-house clinical team. That's one of the things we think is really important, because yeah, as you say, there's just there's a ton of stuff out there, and it can change year by year as to kind of what the latest advice is to what you should and shouldn't do.
That is fascinating, isn't it? You could like myth busting, because it must be different for every person, right? So
yeah, exactly. I think, well, there's a lot of stuff right now, like you've seen things like Zoe come out recently, and various studies that talk about people's different responses to different foods, and whether that be blood sugar or otherwise. And yeah, it is kind of somewhat personal, and there's a lot of kind of evidence and some both sides of the argument as well. But I think there's some, general good advice that everyone appreciates, right? Kind of eat less, do more. Kind of there's, things like there's certain types of foods that are probably better to avoid, and certain types are probably better to eat more of. But beyond that, kind of getting more specific, I think is really helpful. And there's some, I've learned some like really interesting things about like coffee and certain types of nuts and like certain random foods, and like loads of the recommendations that we can kind of generate within the app are things that kind of aren't necessarily just eat more apples and kind of eat less red meat, which kind of most people, right, most people can know that, or you do a quick Google and get a good sense of like the basics, but kind of some super specific things based on certain scenarios, which is super interesting.
And how many customers do you have in the UK? Like, how many people are Thriver app users?
Yeah, so we've got a few 100,000 kind of people in the UK that have kind of tested with us. But we've done kind of multi-millions of tests, because we've kind of worked with both all those customers as well, but then also kind of supported through hospitals and through kind of other B2B partners and stuff like that. So yeah, so tens of thousands of people all the time, kind of regularly testing and tracking this stuff. Some of them for kind of many years now. We've been around for 8 years. Some people have been with us that entire time, so they've built up a real kind of longitudinal data set of kind of they can see over time.
That is fascinating. Gents, I'm conscious of asking the questions.
Yeah, how often do your Thriver users test?
Yeah, so it's completely up to them. And so it's kind of a flexible subscription. There's no kind of set cadence. Most people tend to test about kind of every 3 or 4 months. And that's a good way to build up a kind of long-term picture. Testing more frequently than that, lots of people do it, and you can see some changes, but kind of typically testing, yeah, every 3 or 4 months will give you a really good picture of how this stuff is changing over time. And that might seem like a kind of really like regular thing to people, right? Like on the NHS, there's a over 40s health check, and I think it's like every 5 years or something like that. But so much can change in 5 years, like a huge amount can change, and you have way more control to change stuff more quickly than that. So that's a kind of, based on our kind of clinical team's input and kind of based on lots of the evidence, that's the kind of thing that we recommend. But we have some people just using it as a kind of, I'm going to check in once a year, do a kind of annual health check, and that's great as well. I think, anything's better than nothing as far as we're concerned.
You get all the information from the blood test, and then what happens off the back of that? Is that a case of people have information and then do what you will with that, or is it a case that you then have offerings to go, if your cholesterol's at a certain level, here's something we'd recommend, or does the app automatically do that? Is it all program based after that? How does it work once I know more about what's going on inside?
Yeah, exactly that. So in the app or on the web, you'll get some personalized recommendations, things that you might want to do over the next few months. With the idea being that all the stuff we test, all the recommendations we give are things that you can actually have control over yourself. It wouldn't be great if we give people loads of results and be like, great, there's nothing you can actually do about this. So it's all stuff that you can really genuinely have an impact on. And personally, I've really seen how you can quite quickly have an impact on this stuff if you follow these recommendations. We'll within the app, we'll give you kind of those recommendations. There's some kind of things you can track. You can kind of add to your health profile over time with the idea that you're working up to kind of that next point in time test and understanding kind of how things have changed.
Have you seen anything really shocking from has there been any life-saving moments at all
personally, what's been quite, it sounds obvious when you say it, but you just see there's no hiding it, right? Like when I've been less healthy over 6 months, you see it. And there's no getting away from it. Like you can see the things changing, and the other way as well. When you've had like a period of you've been eating better, doing exercise, all these things, you see it and you get that reward. So that's one thing it has shown me is that how running a stressful company for 8 years ironically doesn't have the best impact on your health all the time. So that's quite funny. But having said that, what the things we test for aren't things that are going to show up like really kind of critical. We're not testing for cancer markers and stuff like that really. Although we are looking to introduce the PSA test soon, which is really interesting for men. But we have had people that have said, really do credit Thrive Health for saving their life. They've done tests which have found something, they've got further examined and found something kind of found a cancer early or found something quite serious that they've managed.
Oh, really?
But I think a lot of people, and it's super rewarding, are people that just have been on the wrong path, towards diabetes, heart disease, all these things, and armed with the information. And obviously, it's them that's doing it. We're not doing it. We're arming them with some of the tools. But they've said, look, because I've had this data, because I've been tracking this, because this has kind of been part of what I've been using, I generally have turned my life around, which is amazing to see. So I think those are the kind of the more crazy things we see are the kind of people that genuinely just completely change their trajectory, which is really cool.
Yeah, because I've never had a blood test in my life. I'm 24 years old. I'm pretty swollen as well. I probably need one. So it's actually quite good that you're on. But how would you break down the categories in terms of like what you get out of it? Because I've done your online sort of process and I click straight on weight loss, obviously. But if I was to do a blood test, is there a simplified breakdown of like what results you're going to be getting or what sort of things you're going to be identifying?
Yeah, absolutely. So each of the, we've chosen the things that we test, we've very deliberately chosen as, we think they're all really good things that most people would benefit from tracking over time. But obviously, as you say, there's certain areas that will be more relevant. So for example, and on the website, we'll break this down under which areas is most relevant. And when you get your results as well, it will kind of link to different things that you might be caring about. And your doctor who gives you a report as well will have looked at your health profile, seen that kind of weight loss is your goal and talk to you, give you a report that's specifically around that as a thing. But yeah, so for example, for weight loss, one of the things that are really relevant are the kind of cholesterol markers, liver markers, non-alcoholic fatty liver diseases are kind of really important ones to stay on top of. And kind of the liver markers that we have around that will help for that. HbA1c, which is basically a kind of diabetes marker, and which is a really important one because more and more people are becoming pre-diabetic without realizing it. And often these aren't, people that these aren't necessarily people that are kind of super overweight, but the really important thing about that is when you're at that level where it's pre-diabetes, it's completely reversible. So if you can't catch it early and you understand that, you can completely reverse it with without the long-term impacts. But obviously it goes further than that, it becomes much more difficult. So yeah, there's lots of different areas. And then we have things like kind of more like vitamins and stuff like that. Because there's also lots of stuff that is just, you want to be at your best every day, and like, especially when you're, as I'm sure everyone here will attest, that when you're tired and like low on energy, it's so hard to like motivate yourself to eat well and go to the gym, and then it's a vicious cycle, right? So actually, some simple things like vitamin D is a really interesting one. Over these months, I can guarantee that more than half of us on this call will have probably low vitamin D. I know that because I'm one of them, because I got my test results a couple of weeks ago, and that can have some real impacts on like your energy and sleep and things like that as well. So kind of in your results, we'll link to all of these things, and because it's so, health is so interconnected and holistic, right? And sleep is so important. If something's impacting your sleep, you're not going to sleep well, you're not going to have the energy to then go out and exercise and eat well, and all of these things are connected. So yeah, we'll break it down into different areas, but all the tests that we offer are relevant for the vast majority of people, and that's kind of deliberate.
But then when you get your results, does someone walk you through them, or does the app just suggest things? Like if my, not to say vitamin D, but there's another vitamin that's low, is there someone that explains what that means, if it's at a good level, or what I can do to change that, or is that where the GP comes in, or what happens then?
Yeah, both of those things. So you'll get a personalized GP report, which is like handwritten by the GP, that will talk to some of those things. But we'll also automatically give you information on, exactly that. What does this result mean? What can I actually, what can I do to change that? And what are the kind of next steps I should take? And then holistically, based on all of your results, we'll give you some kind of specific recommendations for like nutrition, diet, exercise, so these kind of things that you might want to take forward. But the idea is that you shouldn't need to be a doctor to take a lot away from this. This should be super simple for anyone to actually understand like what this means for them and what they can do about it.
That is interesting. So let's get Wegovy. So is this the same jab as the diabetes one that was going viral like a few months back?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting history for some of these drugs. So Wegovy is the brand name for semaglutide, which is it's one of these weight loss drugs. It's actually the same drug that was used previously for diabetes, and that's kind of how these things were discovered. So it was created as a diabetes drug a few years back, and they found that the people that took this, it was kind of working well, but they found that people who took it were losing weight as well. And so they kind of investigated that and spun it out as a kind of separate drug. So there's these kind of class of drugs called GLP-1s, of which Wegovy is one, which is this, So there are kind of some small differences between, and there's a kind of few brands now and a few different players, but they're ultimately kind of all pretty much doing this similar thing. And there's been a huge amount of press over the last kind of year or so specifically around these kind of miracle drugs, because they are like incredible. Like people, our clinical team are super excited about the impact that these can have, and they're not without their risks and side effects and things like that, but the impact that they've had and the kind of evidence so far is really compelling.
And what, I know that explains what is it, but how does it work? Like, for one, right, the needle I can't go near. I pass out at blood tests. It's regular as well. Like, I also pass out if anyone goes near my eyes. I famously passed out trying to put some contact lenses in the opticians. Like, nearly went straight through the floorboards. Middle of Liverpool Street, like bullets of sweat coming off my head. So the thought of having, like, is it like a daily needle thing? The needles, I've got big problems with needles. So how does it work?
Yeah, no, it's like a little, what's the best way to describe it? It's not like a kind of needle that you get through an injection or a blood test or anything like that. It's more like a kind of little thing that you stab in your leg or something like that, and you just kind of press a button. It's slightly different, but maybe if contact lenses aren't your thing, it might not be right up your street.
Honestly, so it's 2 Achilles heels I've got. Is that it's needles?
No, but it's it's something you take regularly, and kind of it's important that you kind of maintain the dose as well. So the way it works is you usually kind of buy like a month's supply, you use that, and you make sure you have your next supply ready to go. And kind of there's various different things around how long term this is used. Like, no one has been using this for like years because it hasn't been available, right? So but it's been deemed completely safe. But the idea is, I think, there's lots of evidence to show that people using this will lose a fair amount of weight, like 10 to 15% of body weight. When they stop using it, the kind of weight will increase, but they'll end up less than where they started. And essentially what it's doing is, I think there's some still research into understanding the real mechanisms as to how this thing is actually working. But essentially what it's doing is it's recreating the satiated feeling of when you've eaten a meal. And so people report just not feeling as hungry, not having the same desire to eat. And so they're just able to kind of manage their nutrition better and kind of do exercise more and things like that. But I think that's the really important thing is it's not a silver bullet. It's not just a wonder drug on its own. I think that that title is misleading and kind of not that helpful. Really what it's doing is part of a wider program. It can support people to lose weight sustainably and keep it off, with the ultimate kind of goal. And this is our doctors, and this is what we'd be telling people, is this isn't something we want people to be on forever, but it helps you get to a point where you've built healthy habits, you've kind of improved your exercise, nutrition, to a point where actually you can sustain that long term without the drug.
You mentioned there where you how does that work? How does the injection work?
So the injection is just you do them regularly, and I'm trying to think there's what it's most similar to, but as I say, it's just like a little tube. If you Google it, you'll see. I think you stick it in your leg. I think you can do it in your arm as well. I haven't actually used one personally, so I've only kind of seen them used. But yeah, so it's not like a kind of big needle. It's just a little thing that goes in.
A prick, little pimple.
I'll do it for you.
It's not even that. They call it I think they call it a pen. It's more like it's very different.
Very similar to
the needle.
The diabetes pens. I've seen them before.
Yeah, exactly.
How easy is it to get your hands on this, and how much does it cost? Because I think Jonty needs it for this weight loss competition that we're doing at the moment.
I will say, I've never seen someone more petrified about being hungry than Jonty. He's obsessed with not being hungry.
Yeah, so excessive.
That was a question I'd have, because I really hate being hungry. It makes me very unproductive. So people that have taken this, they're not hungry, but and they can just get around their day normally, they're productive and stuff.
Yeah, that's what most people have reported. It's just the kind of feeling that you don't have the desire to eat. You feel satiated, like you've just recently eaten, or
could you eat absolutely nothing? And
I think you probably wouldn't want to eat absolutely nothing.
No. So what's the recommended amount to eat when you take it?
I think the idea is that it's going to help you to kind of calorie restrict to just the level you'd be looking to anyway, right? So if you're looking to say consume 1,600 calories a day, for some people that might be so hard, and they're just they've got so much desire to eat. There's so many kind of mental, emotional, physical triggers for them to kind of that make it really hard to consume that few calories. Whereas this drug might help them achieve that really easily, actually, and maintain the kind of the healthy diet and kind of not overeat. So I don't think the goal of it isn't necessarily to kind of do huge calorie restriction and kind of extreme diets. Actually, that's not going to be sustainable, but it makes kind of what we all know is really hard, which is just eating healthily, sustainably, long term, much easier.
Did it go the other way though? Do you have people that use it and then go, well, I just don't feel like eating, so then they don't really eat enough as they should?
I don't think there's been that many reports of that, to be honest. I think it's because it's recreating something that happens in your body anyway. It's not doing something kind of wildly different, which is just you're going to suddenly starve yourself. It's just recreating the feeling and releasing the same kind of stuff that would be released after you've eaten a meal. So it just kind of helps you to regulate that. But I don't think what it has done is kind of people are
it's
really
not as drastic as that. It doesn't take over that much.
No,
it's just like a slight supporting mechanism that aids your willpower, because you don't feel like the need to eat as
yeah,
much.
exactly that. Yeah.
So you asked the question about price.
Yeah, well, I just want to know. I said it. I hid it under the fact of Jonty needing it, but I'm pretty interested. How accessible? So how would I get this, and how much would it cost, and what would I need to do prior to obviously applying for it, or however you do it? What would be the process?
Yeah, sure. So price right now is relatively expensive. I mean, it depends which way you look at it, right? But so it's about £250 a month. Those prices, I imagine, will come down over time. This is a new drug. The supply is not huge. There's huge demand for it around the world. But there's kind of new, Eli Lilly, which is one of the kind of pharmaceuticals, have recently introduced their one into the market as well. So there's a bit more competition. Hopefully, kind of prices will come down a bit. It's about £250 a month. you have to be eligible for it, and so some of the eligibility criteria around people with a certain BMI and kind of without some kind of pre-existing conditions. But from what we've done, most people, the vast majority of people that have chosen to purchase for us, for example, have been eligible. It's kind of, as long as you hit the BMI and don't have those conditions, then you're very likely to be. So you would purchase it, speak to one of our doctors to go through that kind of eligibility consult, and then it would be prescribed, and it would come to your house. And over time, you can kind of check in. You need to, after because there are some side effects, and the side effects do affect a reasonable percentage of people. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head what the stats are, but I think kind of something like 10 to 15% of people do experience some of the side effects. Obviously, some more severe than others. But and then you would continue kind of to, if you want to carry on. Often people would kind of up the dose over time, and the doctor can help you do that, and you'll have a further consultation.
Why would you up the dose? What is that? Because it loses its potency if you continue to take it. Your body adjusts to it.
Yeah, basically.
Right. And side effects wise, what are the common
what are the side effects?
Side effects?
Yeah, so there's a few different side effects. I mean, there's some, and again, like anything there's going to be side effects, right? I'm going to just read them out here to get them right. So I think most common: nausea, diarrhea, vomiting, constipation, stomach pain, headaches, tiredness, upset stomach, dizziness, bloated, belching, gas, stomach flu, heartburn, and runny nose or sore throat. Right, so a big list there.
Anyway.
I mean,
Where do I sign?
Exactly.
Just
Sounds
after the
like
weekend.
Monday morning for me.
Weekend on the beer.
In that case, yeah, it's not a problem.
They all sound fun.
Yeah, like anything, like any drug, right? There's going to be various different side effects that will affect some people more than others, and as I say, I think some people have experienced them kind of reasonable amount. Some people absolutely not at all. And between the different drugs on the market now, so there's one called like Mounjaro and Wegovy and different ones. There's different kind of, some have pure side effects as well. Wegovy is one of the ones that has been shown so far to have less side effects than some of the others.
When you're on this, does your app have a section that allows you to track like diets, what you've eaten, that sort of stuff, to then see the results of it?
Yeah, so we can, the easiest way, because obviously most of what you're doing with this is in terms of, you're not necessarily testing all the time, but you're kind of obviously taking a prescription. The other things we offer alongside it are blood tests. So you, as part of kind of our offering, you get a blood test as part of that. So you can kind of actually track how this is having an impact on not just your weight, but other things over time. You can kind of track your weight through our health profile within the app as well. But then also we'll provide kind of specific support from a kind of one of our doctors along the way. So each month you can speak to one of the doctors, kind of just talk about kind of how it's going, if you want any advice, or kind of what you can be doing next. So the idea is that we absolutely want to be supporting it. This is not just take the drug and we'll sort about it. It's about the kind of more holistic program that is actually ultimately going to see the long-term benefits.
Where do I
I'll tell you that.
Are you allowed to drink alcohol while taking it?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like it won't change any like other stuff. So yeah, like I mean,
okay. I did think that would be the case.
I love and also it doesn't, it's not going to stop you eating a chicken burger and a pint. Like you can still absolutely do that. I think you're just more likely to regulate how much you eat and drink, and like the desire for those things. It will just become, again, what people report is it's just easy. You don't have that same urge to overeat and just consume like huge numbers of calories. So as part of a balanced diet, absolutely everyone should still be doing those things. Like it's still important to have fun and do this stuff, but it just helps you to maintain overall that moderation.
And
really,
if you are
really
going to then have a meal, like do you find does it have the same effect as in you will feel fuller faster? Because obviously it has the effect that essentially you might not have the desire to have food, but then are people finding when they use it, they then have smaller meals because after the first few bites they're starting to feel full, even though maybe they're not?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it's both of those things. It's the desire, but also the kind of people report that just they don't tend to overeat, just feel more satisfied more quickly.
Yeah, great.
Which actually is an interesting one. Like I've personally thought about doing this, and that's actually one of the things that almost put me off, is that so I love food, and I want to be able to, like, if I want to, on a cheat day, have a big pizza and stuff like that, like, still want to be able to do that as part of that overall balance. So that's an interesting, I don't know how you all feel about that, but that's one thing that, personally for me is like potentially.
It did cross my mind, but then it also crossed my mind that I started this journey 4 weeks ago over 27 stone. So at some point, we might have to just get a bit of support with that.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's not forever, right? Like if we did this for a few months and then got down to a much more comfortable weight, and then come off it and try to learn new habits, that wouldn't be the worst thing.
No, absolutely. And I think the really like compelling and exciting thing is about what happens in that time. And it's not just like losing weight, and the evidence does show, and the studies show, that people did just put back on weight when they came off it. But what's really, and they ended up actually in a much better way. So they didn't put on all the weight; they kind of ended up having lost weight overall. But I think, therefore, what's really important is if you can use that time to like focus on building the healthy habits, building the stuff that's actually going to be much easier to sustain from then on, and then seeing once you take it away, you can still continue losing weight because you built those habits.
Yeah, it's not like it just balloons on because you're off drug. It's because you come off the drug and then you eat a shit ton more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you change nothing else about your lifestyle and just took it, it's gonna maybe help you lose weight. And if you just go back to exactly what you're doing, you'll put on the weight, obviously, right?
Exactly what we were doing get us to where we are. That's the thing. So like, if we're ever going to sustain it, if we're ever going to sustain, living life at a lesser weight, we've got to change your lifestyle and your habits. Like that's evident. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in, right?
No.
Yeah.
250 quid's not bad either, because I think about all the money you're saving on lunches and dinners, because it was help a fast as well. We've been doing a fasting sort of frenzy at the moment in the group chats, Tom.
Nice. How's it been going?
Yeah, great. It's awful. But I think everyone's been doing it because it's the biggest weight loss tool, because you're essentially starving yourself, aren't you?
I mean, yeah.
Are you on a 2-day one now, Tay?
I've just cancelled. I did a 39 hours and I finished it at lunchtime today. But I mean, if I struggle with these fasts, it's like literally it pushes my brain to the absolute limit on my mental sort of durability. But with that, you'd feel like you've eaten anyway, and you wouldn't be thinking, "Oh my God, I'm going to eat my arm in a minute." Like, you'd be able to sort of do it. Yeah, no, really good. I'm interested.
Yeah. I I mean, I talk about fasting all day as well because I find it fascinating. So I just actually did a 4-day one 2 weeks ago. Ooh. I tend to try and do some like long ones every now and again, but I hadn't done it in a while. My God, that was hard. So day two, I always find the hardest. So I feel for you. You've done well to push through that.
I did do you do it with any science behind it? So is there like a reason why you do it, or is it?
Yeah, I do it. I mean, I've done them not so much to lose weight before, because I find I just put it straight on when I do them. Like, you just lose some and kind of comes up. But there's so many other benefits that come from it, right? So and there's lots of evidence behind it. So the 4-day ones I do because you get kind of to spend a decent amount of time in ketosis. So ketosis is essentially the state that you go, and you might have heard of the kind of keto diet, which is essentially trying to achieve the same thing. So basically, when you burn all the glucose and glycogen in your liver, like, your body has to start going to fat for fuel, and that's kind of basically converts that into something called ketones for energy. And the kind of evidence shows that you go into a state of like autophagy as well. So basically, your cells are breaking down and renewing faster, which has been shown to have all sorts of benefits for kind of immune system and stuff like that. But also, I find it's great for insulin kind of response as well. So to prevent some kind of regular fasting has been shown to like reduce the effects of insulin resistance, which obviously kind of helps ward off like diabetes and pre-diabetes and stuff like that. Really, really important. Insulin resistance is a huge challenge across kind of globally. But also, I find the mental benefits of it like amazing. So I think, again, I'm probably going to like butcher the scientists slightly, but I think the evidence shows that essentially in your brain, when kind of you're using ketones for energy rather than kind of normally glucose in your blood, the breakdown and the kind of chemical reactions happening as part of that what gets left is actually much cleaner. So it's a kind of cleaner chemical reaction, and therefore like you're focusing much better. And I don't know, again, I've really found that personally, kind of once you get past the fact that, oh my God, I haven't eaten anything in 3 days, it's actually, you find like you can focus really well. I found myself way better at work, concentration way better, which might sound so alien to a lot of people because they think like, if I've missed breakfast, I can't concentrate. But I think once you push past that, and a lot of it's mental, once you push part that, there's a lot of benefits. Yeah, big fan of fasting as well. I think there's a lot of evidence to show it's really beneficial.
Does it correlate on your blood tests? Have you ever sort of got any evidence from the blood tests around fasting?
I did, yeah. So on this one, I did it before and after.
Nice,
and obviously
perfect.
it's not as easy access. You know, my hands like a pincushion at this point. But there's not much as changes in 4 days, obviously, just because it's such a short space of time. But you do see things like once you continue to do it over longer time than I've like got tested, certainly see the most noticeable thing is my HbA1c. So like your HbA1c is basically kind of essentially average blood glucose over the last 3 months. So it's a good measure of like, obviously when you're doing your blood glucose point in time, you'd have to do it like fasted and it's harder to track. Whereas HbA1c shows you like how it's been trending over 3 months essentially. And that's really important. Like that's essentially how you would diagnose diabetes is doing an HbA1c test. So you can kind of really make sure that you're sitting below that. And that's the thing that I found has when I've done the fasting has been controlled so well, along with like cholesterol, lipid profiles. That's been a lot better as well. So yeah, you then when I've kind of consistently done the fasting, you really do see that come across in the results.
So consistent is a thing. You don't want to do just one, because I heard somewhere that it's like once every 6 months you should do one. But are you saying that maybe once a month is probably better?
I mean, if you're talking like a multi-day fast, I think I personally wouldn't be able to do one once a month. So that's essentially, close to quarter of the time I do it, because it is quite a thing. I tend to do them every, a few a year. I'm not sure whether there's, I think, and again, I'm not 100% sure on whether there's kind of studies to support this. But I think, anything is better than nothing. And I don't know if there's any specific, like you should be doing exactly one a year to kind of get the best benefits. I'm sure there is some data behind that. But obviously there's different types of fasting as well, right? So there's kind of I think lots of those benefits still come from like calorie restrictive stuff. So whether that's kind of 16-8 or like, 5-2 or like various different formats of fasting. The ones that you don't get with that as much is obviously going to the benefits from ketosis, because people typically wouldn't transfer into that ketosis stage until kind of maybe 24 to 36 hours after they've kind of started fasting. So it takes a bit of time. So if you're doing, 16-8, you're not going to get into that. But I think it's whatever works for people probably. But for me personally, I found it really benefits me, and it's a good, I find it a good reset.
Another pro faster. I've been bought in and bought out fucking 20 times with fasting. It's driving me mad. There's a guy in the group that is like, I think he's got fasting tattooed on his back somewhere. He absolutely loves it. And it's just I
felt great when I did mine, I'll be honest. Like I felt so it started after I finished dinner on a Tuesday. And Wednesday night, missing breakfast and missing lunch I do that regularly. I've done that. I've literally done that today. I've not eaten a thing today so far, and it's 10 to 7. But it was then going home and not being able to have dinner and have the larger meal I would have in a day, because most of my calories I'll have in the evening. And that first night where I was like, I can't have anything, and then going to bed, that was tough. But by the time I woke up the next day on the Thursday, I felt good. I was thinking I was going to wake up in a whole world of trouble, because I went to bed really struggling, and I woke up like sprightly, and then had the whole Thursday and the Friday feeling great. And I ended up doing 3.5 days, and I was only planning on doing 3 days, just because I didn't really feel like I wanted to. I didn't want to break it. So actually, I can see how the mental thing, when you said about your mental state, maybe it was just because I felt like I was doing well on the fast, but I did feel like I did feel like I had more energy. I felt a bit more like I had more about myself. So I'll definitely do it. I'll definitely do it again. I'm not going to be a monthly thing for me either, but I can definitely see that it not just for weight loss, that I felt good about doing it.
Yeah, for sure. I think when I was one of those people like a few years back where I said, "Oh God, I couldn't miss breakfast. Like I just wouldn't make it through the day." And I think so much of it is just mental when you realise that we're built as kind of humans, going back 1,000 years. We wouldn't have eaten like 3 meals a day, right? Like we haven't evolved to be able to do that. We need to be able to go, like, some of this, if you think about it, like, back in caveman era, if you haven't eaten, haven't had a successful hunt in a while, you haven't gathered anything, you need to be at the top of your game, right? You need to be able to concentrate great, you need to be able to run long distances. I think kind of makes sense that we've evolved to do it, but like it becomes such a mental thing that we're so used to being able to access food and kind of get that whenever we need it, that when you stop doing that, it becomes really hard. That's certainly something I found, like I find a bit easier now, but yeah, I think a lot of people, I think everyone can do it. It's just kind of getting over that mental barrier, I think, for a lot of people.
Tom, just to bring it back, because obviously I know we've just delved into everything not Thrive with more fasting related. What is your most the biggest selling or the biggest money maker in terms of Thriver's whole business? Because obviously we're focused on just weight loss. We're like homing in on that. But you as like a company, what would you say your most successful part of your business has been over the last 8 years?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think, to be honest, it is on, when it comes to weight loss, a huge percentage of our customers, I think it was like last I checked, about 30% of our customers state their like primary goal as weight loss. So it is a really, really big thing for a lot of people. A lot of people are more generally looking to kind of track their health long term, and so actually, the typical tests that kind of would do that, like lipid profiles, vitamin D, is the kind of all the stuff you might expect, that kind of pertain to longevity and kind of tracking long term health, are the kind of core of what lots of people will continually track. So in terms of the types of tests, those are the things that are most popular and that most people choose.
And do you have like a certain profile of customer that's more popular than others? Like who are your main client base?
Yeah, we have a few different kind of types of customers. I mean, our typical, like, lots of our customers we kind of talk about as like optimizers, right? So they're people that are probably already doing other stuff when it comes to their health. So they've probably got a wearable, they're probably kind of fasting, they're probably like thinking about all these kind of things, and they're using Thrive as a tool in their arsenal to kind of to take with them on this health journey, probably thinking about that stuff. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're optimal, right? I think that's the important thing. Like, lots of these people are like all of us, just trying to do better and looking, they have some kind of reason why they're kind of embarking on this journey. Like, often we find that people have a trigger in their life that kind of causes them to do this. When I started, Thriver was 20 something, 26 maybe, and lots of my friends didn't have that much interest, right? They didn't really think about this stuff. Why forward now? They're all using it. And there's just, they hit 30, they start thinking about that stuff. They have children and they think, oh, actually, I want to be there long term. And just kind of something happens in your life where you start thinking about your long term differently. So often kind of people like that. But there's also people, kind of different profiles, where maybe they're managing a specific condition, right? So there's a really specific set of things that they want to be testing all the time. Kind of like lots of people have thyroid disorders, which is quite, more common than some people realize, especially for women. And they just want to stay on top of those kind of things. We have like female health tests, which are really popular. So kind of women who want to track kind of female hormones and stuff like that, which is really important. Same for men on the kind of testosterone side of things. So yeah, quite a broad range of different types of customers, but really the customer that, and really, if I'm honest, like the what we want to help people to become is that kind of optimized thing where people are just, arming themselves with information about themselves, really engaged in their long-term health, and just kind of getting those tight feedback loops to be able to kind of make, slightly better decisions every day. That's all it takes. It's just like that long-term, slightly better decision making.
Who do you reckon's got the most testosterone out of all of us? Out of all of us lads.
There's one way to find out. There's one way to find out.
Thriver it.
You know what? I feel like we should do the blood test and see.
I'll back it.
Down to some guinea pigs, yeah.
You sure?
See if we can, see if there's any of
Find
us.
out we've all got diabetes.
Yeah, my thyroid's fucked.
Someone just ready to catch Ian though when he's doing it.
Yeah, he'll have to lay down to do it.
Even the pinprick I'm fine with. Okay. Oh my god, needles.
We'll sneak attack you, Ian. We'll crawl under the desk at work and just jab you in the leg without mate.
The thing is, it's like it's actually like quite a problem. Like, if I go for a blood test, I have to say I have to lie down. Because if I've passed out like standing and hit deck before, like
Absolutely
it's bad.
funny, man.
Yeah, no, you box, Ian, so you take punches to the face,
That's
you do
fine.
all that sort of side,
Don't
but
do
a
with
tiny
needles.
little
Don't look at it.
It's not.
still-
It doesn't work like that, John. It's yeah. It
Don't
just,
Next time you're
you look
boxing,
away and you still faint.
the next time you're boxing, someone, if you get split lip or something, just have a test tube handy and just just get one filled up.
that could
And
be it.
For someone with a needle in their pants, I'm surprised that you.
Hey, there we go. Let's get this pod back in the gutter.
I'm keen to give it a go. I think we should do some of these tests and have a look at what we
Do you
find.
do it live
So
on the pod?
reveal the results. Yeah, I'm up for it.
Ian passing out will get tons of views.
Yeah, well, up for signing up. Wagovi, do we have a guinea pig for that in here?
Yeah, but do a little bit more research, but I'm up for it.
I'm not in.
I don't care. I couldn't care less about needles. That's what I will say. So if it's going to help me, then why not?
I've got the mental strength to not eat. That's the thing. So do I need a?
You look
Brilliant.
like it, mate.
Tom, thanks very much for coming on. That was incredible. How do we find your company? Is it? What's the best way to get in touch? Your website, Instagram. That's the thing.
All of the above, yes. You can find us on thriver.co, so thriver.co. On Instagram with Thriver Health, same Thriver Health across all kind of social channels. So yeah, do get in touch. Feel free to reach out. If anyone wants to get in touch with me personally, just Tom at thriver.co. Feel free to reach out. And yeah, thanks so much for having me on. It's been great. Really enjoyed it. If there's anything we can do to help, like all ears, we'd love to help you out and kind of do whatever we can to support the 50 kg drop journey.
Yeah.
Love that. And Thriver is THRIVA.
Yeah, that's the one.
So, like, number one health app meets number one health podcast. This is a great marriage, isn't it? Sorry, we're number 5 in New Zealand.
Well, we're not even 7 New Zealand, so beat us there. So.
Tom, thank you very much, and
Tom, appreciate that.
take care.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks.
Bye.
We've got some diet plans, health scans, sugar bans, fitness fans, PTs, injuries, laying off the Chinese, ball games, gym chains, protein gains and skin tight tops, and we ain't gonna stop until we hit the 50k. Drop, 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 drop. No excess fat, no FAT, no curry bag, no guarantee. Rough or buff, lean on me. We'll end up as fit as a pig.